So if I had to start all over again in real estate as of today without no property, no connection, and no knowledge, this is exactly how I will build my rental portfolio 10 times faster. Because most new investors are still playing by the old strategy. They are thinking about what worked in the 1990 can still work in today's market. Obviously, those strategies are dead. And that is why most beginners always feel stuck. Not because they are doing anything wrong, but it's because they are following the old rule that doesn't work in the current market. So if you are buying your first property, either it's your first home that you're going to be living in or your first real estate deal, this is a video you do not want to miss for any reason. Because I'm sharing my exact playbook that I've used to help over 400 new and experienced investors to scale their rental portfolio. If you are meeting me for the first time, hi, I'm Wale Lowell, a Texas real estate broker and a rental property investor. I am the guy new investors typically come to when they want beginner safe, clear guidance that actually makes sense in today's market. And after helping over 400 new and experienced investors to buy their first home or their first rental property, here is exactly how I will start from zero right now. So you see, real estate is still one of the safest assets I know of that you can use to build wealth in today's market. But the rule has changed, and it's very important for you to understand the new rule. Interest rate has gone up, cash flow is becoming so tight, sellers are now more smart when it comes to how much they can sell their house for. Also, builders are flooding a lot of property into the market, which gives you a lot of options to choose from, but it could also mean a confusion for you. Also, there is a lot of real estate content out there, so which means there is so much information overload that you might even be confused on what to do if you don't know exactly what you are looking for. And because I've worked with a lot of new and experienced investors, most investors always try to learn everything at the beginning when they are getting started. Obviously, they always get nowhere, and this is why I'm sharing my playbook with you in this video. So follow this simple path and you will be glad you did. So the step one I will take if I'm starting from scratch in today's market is that I will crystal clear define my buying criteria. What am I looking for? In the next 24 hours or 2 days, I will clearly define my buy box. I will make it so tight so I can easily eliminate 90% of any property that does not fall into the buy box, or even avoid any confusion for myself. I will pick 2 to 3 neighborhoods, maybe close to my house, that I know they can actually cash flow. They're in a safe place, maybe a class B or B plus neighborhood. I will make sure they are near jobs, they are near schools, and they are reasonable taxes. And I want to make sure there is a high rental demand in that area. Plus, the HOA must be very reasonable, because if the HOA is too high, I'm going to be losing a lot of money and my cash flow will be almost zero. I will also finalize on my property type I'm looking for. Am I looking for a single family home? Am I looking for a duplex, triplex? I will clearly define that. And I also know, am I looking for something relatively new, maybe from 2010 or newer, or I'm open to fixing property up, maybe something in 1960, 1940. I will clearly define this, because I know if I do this clearly, it will save me tons of headache and tons of frustration down the line. Part of my criteria, I will also define my price range. What is the price point I'm trying to buy at? Am I trying to buy at 300,000, 400,000? What is my buying criteria in terms of prices? I will definitely clearly define that as well. Now, once I define my price range, I will also define my rent price range I'm targeting. Typically $2,000 to $2,500 is always the sweet spot in the Houston, Texas area. And I want to make sure if I'm buying the property, it actually makes sense for the 0.75% rule. Or if I can get a 1% rule deal, which means if I'm buying the property for $300,000, it should be able to rent for $3,000. That is a 1% rule. But if I cannot get 1.1% rule, I will be willing to settle for 0.75% and above. Now, typically when you see that 1% rule, it might need some light renovation, which might be okay if you know what you're doing or if you've gotten a good education. The next thing I will also dial in when it comes to my buy box is my cash flow. How much cash flow per month or per door am I looking for? Typically, a lot of investors like to go with $200 per unit. Typically is what I will also be settling for, because if you expect more cash flow per door, then you should be willing to do a lot of work, which can expose you for a lot of risk as a new investor. Now, if the $200 per door doesn't work out, I will look at it in form of a cash on cash as well. And 8 to 12% is always a sweet spot on a rent-ready property, not a fixer-upper, not a property you need to go and do tons of work on. Now, I'm going to leverage on tools like Zillow, Redfin, Rentometer, Bigger Pockets, Calculator. I will leverage on insurance broker and also use Google Maps to see what the area even look like before I drive to any property. Most people overanalyze, and I will analyze about 30 rental properties within 48 hours or 2 days, and I will be able to make sure it fits into my buy box. Anyone that does not fit into my buy box, I will simply simply delete it and move on to the next one. The number 2 steps I will take as a new real estate investor starting today, I will clearly define the real estate strategy I want to implement, and at the same time I will also decide on what financing strategy will I be using to buy that property. Because if you continue to do your research, you will see that a lot of new investors always get trapped in this phase of their journey. They don't know what strategy they want to implement, and they are so confused on so many real estate investment strategy out there. So again, if you pick one strategy and you decide on it, it will allow you to make decisions faster and you will get results faster as well. Now, because there's a lot of real estate strategy out there, I will educate myself on a couple of them and decide on which one actually suits my financial goal and my long-term goal I'm trying to achieve. And after doing my research, I will have finalized that buy and hold long-term rental or short-term rental might be what works for me, and I will stick to it, and that is the kind of property I will be looking for every single day. Because again, this will allow me eliminate 90% of property that does just not fit into this buy box. Now, in addition to the strategy, I will also make sure I define what kind of condition do I want to buy the property, which I kind of mentioned it earlier. I want to make sure I'm buying something that is rent ready or turnkey, that doesn't need any crazy kind of work, because don't forget, I'm new. I don't know what I'm doing yet, and the more risk I'm taking buying distressed property, buying property that need a lot of work, the higher my probability of losing money. And as a new investor, I don't want to lose money, so I will be starting with something like maybe built in 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or even new construction built this year. Now, on the financing part, I will quickly educate myself about all the financing options available to new investors like me. I will also be talking to different lenders, and I will compare 3 lenders' quotes side by side. I will educate myself about FHA loan, conventional loan. If I'm a veteran, I will educate myself about VA loan, among other loan options available out there. I will also educate myself about the DSCR loan, which allow me to qualify based on the rental income, not on my personal income. And I will be focusing on the total cost of getting the loan, not just the interest rate only. Now, if I were single and I'm starting from scratch, I would definitely be house hacking, because house hacking allow me to buy a duplex or triplex or fourplex. It allow me to live on one side using 3.5% FHA or 3% or 5% conventional loan, which means I'm buying that property with little to no money out of my pocket, and I'm learning about real estate investing almost risk-free. Now, house hacking will definitely allow me to be able to offset my mortgage payment. Almost 90% of my mortgage payment will be paid by the tenant that are living in my property. Now, because I'm new, I will be focusing on a clean, either single family home or a duplex in a very nice part of town, and I will make sure I keep it long term. Now, I will be focusing on the best part of town, because I know that most smart investors don't chase the cheap deal. They buy the clean, boring, profitable rental property in the best neighborhood they can find. The number 3 step I'll be following is to now make offer and negotiation. At this point, I will have partnered with a rockstar investor agent that know what he or she is doing, and I will start making 2 to 3 offers every single week based on my buy box, based on my goal, based on my criteria, and make sure that anyone that check those boxes, I'll be having my agent to submit an offer on those property until we find something accepted by the seller. Now, I'll be structuring my offer based on the comparable sales recently in their neighborhood. I'll also make sure that I'm baking in 5 to 7 days due diligence period or option period in my offer. I'll also be using a standard conventional financing contingency, which is typically 14 days or to 20 days in some part of Texas market. So one thing I'll also be doing in my offer is to ask the seller for 2 to 3% of the seller's credit, so that it can reduce my out-of-pocket money. And once I do home inspection on that property, I would definitely be negotiating for repair, because I want to make sure all the big 4 items are in good shape. I'm talking about the roof, the HVAC, the foundation, and the plumbing, maybe even electrical. And again, this is why I'll be buying a new construction or a property that is relatively new. And if I check everything, the number looks good, inspection came clean, or we have negotiated the repair, I will move forward to close on that property. And if it doesn't make sense for me, the seller is being difficult, I would definitely terminate the contract and move on to the next one. So since I'm a new investor, here are the 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days speed run timeline I would adhere to for me to close on my first deal faster. In the week 1, from day 1 to day 7, I will define my buy box clearly. I will get a pre-approval letter, and I will analyze about 30 homes. So between the week 2 to week 3, I will talk about 8 to 12 properties and submit 2 to 3 offers. Now, between the day 22 to day 45, which is around the week 3 to about week 7, I will now hopefully get under contract and do home inspection. Also, if I'm using loan, which I will definitely be using as a new investor, the lender will also be doing the appraisal, and if all the inspection and appraisal checks good and the seller is reasonable, I will definitely get the house closed. So you see, within 45 days, I've already closed on my first rental property. And by day 46 to day 60, I will list the property online for rent. I will definitely now start screening tenant and I will start putting my management automation in place. And from 60 days to 90 days, I will have stabilized my rental property. I will also have built my reserve and I will be on the hunt for my deal number 2. So as you can see, your first deal is not going to be perfect. It's just to get you some momentum, but it should be profitable and it should be able to be repeatable for you to do it again. So like every investor, as you can see, we all started confused with no roadmap, but one good rental property can change everything. And not because it's going to make you rich or make me rich, but because it gives that clarity, that confidence, and that proof of concept that yes, this is possible. And it also gave you a repeatable roadmap that you can follow over and over again. So if you want my one-on-one support to help you get started in rental property investing, click on the link below to schedule a consultation with me and let's see if we can work together. And if you want me to send you the step-by-step I put together that can help you to buy your rental property in 30 days or 60 days, comment the word start below and I will send it to you. Thank you for watching to the end. Before you go, I want you to watch this next video where I walk you through how to buy your first rental property with no confusion, step by step. Click here and I will see you in the video. Peace.